My wife's hands swelled due to an illness, and her wedding ring had to be cut. The jeweler who made it has passed, but I think I found a way to restore it. My wife and I have been together for 17 years. She was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. It was tough news, but she's a fighter. She's been dealing with it like the warrior she is. But recently, we hit a bit of a bump. About a month ago, North Texas weather decided to go full-on crazy. You know, the kind of week where it's sunny one day, freezing the next, with thunderstorms sprinkled in for fun. One morning, after a huge temperature drop overnight, she woke up with her hands swollen like balloons. Her delicate fingers, normally these beautiful, petite hands I love holding, looked like sausages. She was uncomfortable, sure, but what made it worse? She'd accidentally slept with her wedding ring on. We tried everything to get it off. Soap, oil, ice, but nothing worked. Her hands were just too swollen. So off to the doctor we went, where they had to cut her ring off. This wasn't just any ring. These were custom wedding bands, made 17 years ago in Ireland, with Gaelic inscriptions that meant the world to us. When they cut it, I could see the heartbreak on her face. She tried to act like it wasn't a big deal, but I know her. It was a big deal. I told her, "We'll figure it out, babe. I promise." But deep down, I wasn't sure how. That's when I went full Sherlock Holmes. I spent hours Googling. I tracked down the original jeweler's shop, only to find out it closed over 10 years ago. Most people would probably stop there, but I couldn't. I kept digging and eventually found the jeweler's personal Facebook page. I sent him a message, not even sure if it would go through. A few days later, I got a response, but not the one I hoped for. His daughter messaged me back and said her dad had passed away 6 months ago. I was crushed for her family and for the chance of fixing the ring, but she was incredibly kind and understanding. I explained everything. The ring's story, how much it meant to us, and how it broke my heart to see my wife so upset. I didn't expect anything beyond that, but then, about 2 weeks later, she messaged me again. She'd gone through her dad's old workshop, digging through designs and molds, and she found our rings. She even sent pictures of the sketches to confirm they were the right ones. Not only that, but her brother, who had taken over their father's business, offered to remake the rings for us. They didn't just stop there. They made 3 rings for my wife, 1 in her original size, and 2 in larger sizes in case her fingers swell in the future. They even made a replacement for my ring, saying it wouldn't be fair for her to have a new ring and me to keep the old one. Here's the kicker. They did this completely free. I offered to pay, and they wouldn't hear of it. They said it was their honor to keep their father's legacy alive. Now, I've got tracking info, and the rings are arriving Thursday. My wife has no idea any of this is happening. I've been keeping it a secret, which is hard because we tell each other everything. Seriously, our friends compare us to Marshall and Lily from How I Met Your Mother because we're that couple. Here's where I need your advice. I want to make this reveal unforgettable. When I proposed to her 17 years ago, I did it at our favorite restaurant. She's a nurse. We met at the VA hospital, so she always washes her hands before meals. Back then, I hid the ring in her wine glass and waited for her to find it. It was perfect. Now I'm debating if I should recreate that moment, but part of me wonders if I should come up with something new. I want this to be even more special because of what we've been through together. Some ideas I've been tossing around: recreating our proposal at the same restaurant, including our 2 sons in the reveal, maybe making it a family moment since they've been such a huge part of our journey, doing something quiet and private at home, where it's just the 2 of us. She deserves the world, and I want this to be a moment she'll never forget. Edit 1. Thank you all for the overwhelming support. A lot of you have suggested adding a personal touch or involving our kids. I'm leaning toward recreating the proposal but adding a twist. Maybe I'll slip her new ring onto her finger while she's sleeping, so she wakes up with it on. Full circle moment since that's how this all started. Edit 2. For those asking why I'm so sappy, let me just say this. If you're lucky enough to have someone who makes your life better every single day, why wouldn't you be sappy? My wife raised 2 incredible sons who I was honored to adopt, supported me through 2 doctorates, and still looks at me like I hung the moon. If loving her loudly makes me too much, I'll happily wear that label. Update. The ultimate surprise. How my wife got her wedding bands back. It's done. The surprise has been revealed, and I can finally share how it all unfolded. This journey has been a whirlwind of emotions, stress, excitement, hope, and it all led to an unforgettable moment during what was supposed to be a simple family lunch. Here's the full story of how my wife, my everything, got her wedding bands back. We decided to keep it low-key. I know my wife well enough to know she'd absolutely hate a big public display, so I took the advice many of you gave and planned something intimate but still meaningful. The setup was simple. We'd have lunch with our two sons, under the pretense that we were taking her old, damaged wedding band to a local jeweler afterward. The idea was to keep her focused on what she thought was the task at hand. She didn't suspect a thing. It was just a regular family lunch before an errand. But behind the scenes, my sons and I had orchestrated the entire reveal. We sat down at one of our favorite spots, and everything started as normal, ordering drinks, chatting, and catching up. Then, my oldest son casually asked my wife if he could see her damaged wedding band. She handed it over without much thought, and that's when the magic began. He took it under the table, grinning like the mischievous guy he is, and started acting like he was straining and squeezing it. After a few moments of exaggerated effort, he placed a completely whole wedding band on the table and said, "Does this work?" My wife was stunned. She stared at the ring, then at him, completely baffled. "How did you?" she started, trailing off as she slid the ring onto her finger. It was too big, though, and she quickly noticed. That's when our youngest son chimed in, saying, "Here, let me fix that." He took the ring, went through the same silly routine of squeezing and molding it, and handed it back. This time, the ring fit better, but not perfectly. At this point, my wife was officially confused. She looked at both boys, then back at the ring. Something was clearly up, but she couldn't put her finger on it, literally or figuratively. Finally, I stepped in. I grabbed the ring from her, played along with the same straining act, and handed it back to her. This time, the ring fit perfectly. She stared at it, then at me, then at the boys. You could see her brain working overtime trying to figure out what was happening. She took the ring off and started inspecting it more closely, looking for clues. That's when we went for the final reveal. My oldest son placed her original, cut wedding band on the table. My youngest added the too large version we had just made. Then I placed the intermediate-sized ring next to them. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. She stared at the rings, her eyes darting between us and the table, before finally saying, "Wait, what is this? How?" I explained it all. How I tracked down the jeweler's family, the incredible effort they went to in recreating our wedding bands, and why I'd kept this whole thing a secret. I showed her the sketches and molds they'd sent us, and even pulled up the Reddit post to show her how many people had been rooting for us. That's when the tears started. It wasn't just about the rings. It was the thoughtfulness of the jeweler's family, the effort I'd put into surprising her, and the overwhelming kindness from strangers online. She read through some of your comments and said it was incredible how much support we'd received from people we didn't even know. As we finished lunch, she admitted something that made me even more grateful for the advice I received here. She would have killed me if I'd gone for a big, public display. She hates being the center of attention, and the intimate, family-focused reveal was exactly what she wanted, even if she didn't know it at the time. After lunch, we spent some time just talking, reflecting, and appreciating the moment before going our separate ways. Me back to work, her back home. It was perfect. I've had a lot of people asking if they can reach out to the jeweler, but I've been asked to respect their privacy. The daughter, son, and an uncle are working part-time to complete orders their father had taken before he passed. Once those are done, the business will close for good. As a token of our gratitude, my wife is putting together a Texan gift package filled with local goodies to send to them. It's the least we can do after everything they've done for us. They also sent us copies of the original sketches and molds for our rings, which we've stored in a safe. If anything happens again, we'll have what we need to get them remade. This whole experience has been overwhelming in the best way possible. When I started this journey, I had no idea it would touch so many people. Your advice, kind words, and support meant the world to us, and I can't thank you enough for helping me make this moment so special for my wife. For those who sent awards, silver, gold, platinum, it wasn't necessary, but it's deeply appreciated. To the skeptics calling this story fake, I can't control how you see the world. All I can say is that this is our story, and I'm grateful for every part of it. At the end of the day, this wasn't just about a wedding band. It was about love, resilience, and the kindness of strangers. My wife is overjoyed, and I couldn't be happier to have given her this moment. To everyone who followed along, offered advice, or just shared in our joy, thank you. Story 2. My boyfriend learned sign language to communicate with my brother, but my friends called it a red flag. I have been dating John for about 5 months now. We first met in a college class last semester and immediately hit it off. He has an amazing sense of humor, and we share a lot of similar interests, like gaming and exploring new types of food. He's also incredibly respectful and kind, which stood out to me right away. John is my first boyfriend, so I didn't have a lot of expectations going into the relationship, but he's been nothing short of wonderful. He listens, respects my boundaries, and has this way of making me feel like the most important person in the room. In September, John met my family for the first time when I went home for my brother Trev's 19th birthday. My brother has been deaf since birth, so our family primarily communicates with him using ASL, his excellent lip-reading skills, or text. It's second nature to us, but I was a bit anxious about how John would handle this dynamic, especially since this was his first time meeting my family. To my surprise, John was amazing. He was charming, polite, and made an effort to connect with everyone, including Trev. Since Trev loves jokes and storytelling, John typed out his jokes and comments for Trev to read, even though Trev could lip-read most of it. Whenever John told a story, either I or my parents translated into sign language for Trev. Later that evening, John and Trev bonded over a gaming session. Trev is incredibly expressive when he plays, using dramatic gestures and playful trash talk in ASL. I acted as their translator, trying to soften Trev's over-the-top trash talk while John played along with polite compliments and encouragement. It was hilarious and heartwarming to see them connect so well. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago, when John visited again for my mom's birthday. He surprised all of us by communicating with Trev using ASL. He was still in the early stages, mostly fingerspelling and some basic words, but the effort alone lit up Trev's face. Apparently, John had been teaching himself ASL using YouTube tutorials and a Skillshare subscription. It wasn't perfect, he had to pause a lot to think, and his sentences were choppy, but the fact that he was trying meant the world to my family, especially Trev. During their gaming session, they were able to communicate more directly, even if it was slow. I still translated when needed, but they seemed to have a great time. Trev was ecstatic to have someone make such a genuine effort to connect with him. Feeling overjoyed about John's effort, I shared the story with my close high school friend group. I expected them to be happy for me, but instead, I got a wave of negativity. One of my closest friends, a guy I've known for years, said John's behavior was creepy and a red flag. He argued that learning ASL so soon into our relationship was a sign of obsession or emotional manipulation. He even implied that John might be doing this just to win me over or get something from me, like sex. Hearing this was jarring. Up until that moment, I had no doubts about John's sincerity. He's always been patient and respectful of my boundaries. But my friend's comments planted a seed of doubt. John has given me no reason to think he's manipulative or obsessive. He's been a consistent, kind, and supportive partner. My parents adore him, and Trev has gained a friend who's breaking down communication barriers just to connect with him. I know my friend's concerns come from a place of care. They've all had dating experience. While this is my first relationship, but their negativity made me second-guess something that has been overwhelmingly positive so far. John's effort to learn ASL feels like a natural extension of who he is. He values the people I care about and wants to make them feel included. Watching him bond with Trev has been one of the most heartwarming experiences of my life. It feels like he's not just interested in me, but in the world I'm part of. At the same time, I can't ignore the pressure from my friends. Their comments have made me wonder if I'm being naive or overlooking potential red flags. Am I seeing John clearly, or am I blinded by the excitement of my first relationship? Right now, I'm torn. My gut tells me John is sincere, but my friends' warnings make me hesitate. I don't want to let their doubts ruin something good, but I also don't want to ignore legitimate concerns. How do I move forward? Should I trust my instincts and continue to build this relationship with John, or are my friends seeing something I'm not? This situation has also made me question my friendships. While I appreciate their concern, their reaction feels overly harsh and judgmental. It's made me wonder if they're projecting their own bad experiences onto my relationship. If anyone's been through a similar situation, balancing a relationship with friends' opinions, I'd love to hear how you navigated it. Edit 1. Wow, I wasn't expecting this level of response. Thank you to everyone who shared your insights and kind words. It's been so reassuring to see people validate John's actions as thoughtful and genuine. I'll take time to process everything and reflect on my relationships with John and my friends. Update. First off, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Your insights were invaluable and helped me see my relationships in a new light. A lot of Redditors pointed out that my friends seemed conniving, untrustworthy, and even ableist because they never bothered learning ASL despite knowing me for years. While I agree that their behavior was problematic, I think it's also important to provide some context. My family moved to our current area when I was a senior in high school, and I became friends with this group, 2 guys and 2 girls, after we were grouped together for a school project. They were already a tight-knit circle, but they welcomed me in during what was a tough transition year for me. They're not perfect, but they were my lifeline during a challenging time. As for my brother Trev, he was having a difficult time adjusting after the move. When my friends came over, Trev usually stayed in his room or was busy with his tutor. He's naturally shy around strangers, so my friends never really had the chance to bond with him. By the time Trev got comfortable in our new area and built his own circle of friends, my friends and I had already graduated and drifted apart to some extent. Meeting John and revealing the truth. Last week, my friend group hosted a year-end party, and I brought John along. This wasn't unusual. Others in the group have brought their partners before. While John had already met Mike, this was his first time meeting the rest of the group. At first, the atmosphere was awkward. My friends were a bit cold toward John, and Mike, in particular, was throwing pointed, mean-spirited jokes. As the night went on, most of the group warmed up to John. By the end of the evening, everyone seemed to genuinely enjoy his company, except for Mike, who stayed distant and visibly tense. The next day, I had lunch with Sophie, 21F, my closest female friend, to clear the air. She admitted that she and the others had sensed something was off with Mike. When I brought up Reddit's theory that Mike might have a crush on me, Sophie confirmed it, though it was far more complicated than I'd imagined. According to Sophie, Mike has had a crush on me since high school. However, he's known as a ladies' man, who regularly hooked up with different girls and even had a pregnancy scare in college. While I knew about his flings, he bragged about them constantly. I had no idea he was spinning fake stories about me. Sophie revealed that Mike had told the group that we had a pact to marry if we were both single at 30. We hooked up after graduation, and I lost my virginity to him. We secretly hooked up throughout college, despite attending different universities. I was secretly in love with him. He also claimed that I asked the group not to bring any of this up with me because it would embarrass me. When John entered the picture, Mike allegedly told our friends that John was manipulating me, isolating me from them, and forcing himself into my family. He claimed he had tried to warn me about John, but that I was too brainwashed to listen. Sophie and I organized a FaceTime call with the rest of the group, minus Mike, to discuss everything. Everyone shared different versions of Mike's stories, and I firmly debunked all of them. The group was shocked, apologizing for their behavior toward John and me. They hadn't realized how much of their perception was based on Mike's fabrications. We collectively decided to cut Mike out of the group. Sophie initially suggested an intervention, but I was done. I didn't want to engage with someone who had lied so extensively about me and caused so much unnecessary drama. A week later, Sophie and another friend spoke with Mike to inform him of our decision. He became defensive and confrontational, hurling insults at them and the rest of the group. His reaction only reinforced our decision to cut ties completely. After everything came to light, I sat down with John to tell him what had happened and apologize for doubting him. I expected him to be hurt or angry, but he was incredibly understanding. He reassured me that it was natural to trust my friend's judgment and asked if there was ever a moment in our relationship when I felt uncomfortable or uneasy. I told him there wasn't. He's my safe space, and I trust him completely. John told me that his intentions have always been genuine and that he sees a future with me. I felt the same way and told him so. John's friendship with Trev is thriving. Recently, Trev joined one of John's D&D sessions with his friends, and John and I acted as interpreters. Most of John's friends had already learned the ASL alphabet and incorporated it into the game's lore, which was heartwarming to see. Trev has also been asking John for fitness tips since they share a similar body type. With John's encouragement, Trev has started a workout routine and seems excited about it. I also met John's family for the first time at their annual holiday gathering. It was incredible. They were warm, welcoming, and a lot of fun. Their family tradition includes a talent showcase, and while I was excused this year, they told me to prepare something impressive for next time. John and his brothers performed NSYNC's Bye 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 in superhero costumes, His sister sang Defying Gravity from Wicked, and his parents did a Sound of Music medley. It was an unforgettable evening, and I felt truly embraced by his family. This experience has taught me so much about relationships and friendships. John and I are stronger than ever, and I now know who my true friends are. Cutting ties with Mike was difficult, but it was the right decision. To everyone who commented on my original post, thank you for your advice and encouragement. Your insights gave me the clarity I needed to handle this situation. If you made it this far, thank you for reading. Wishing everyone a happy new year.